Hi, Marv Curtis again. Thanks for joining me. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a recent case of a client, a young female with fibromyalgia in her mid-30s, with whom we did 6 sessions of hypnosis. She initially came because she was afraid of sleeping. She was having thrashing nightmares and would wake up in the night just beating her arms, and her poor husband was getting smacked around, and she was scared not just of hurting him, but also what these nightmares might represent. She felt as though something was out trying to get her. And it was a very terrifying experience for her, and it also caused her not to get very good sleep. She was afraid of going to sleep. And when she woke up with these nightmares, it was impossible to go back to sleep. As we worked through this using hypnosis, we went back in time to find where things might have started to change for her. And one of the significant things that happened occurred when she was about 15. She was moved to a new school in a new state in a new city, and she was just rejected completely by her peer group. She desperately wanted to fit in, loved to play certain kinds of sports, and they just simply would not let her be a part of things. And after constant rejection, and in fact, even some poor treatment by teachers and others who should have been helpful, she said, something just changed in my psyche and in my body, and I began to have pain that would simply never go away. Well, as it turned out, when she was at that point, she developed pain in her stomach, and the result of that was she didn't go to school for quite a long time. And it seemed obvious that the pain was really designed to prevent her from facing this rejection she was experiencing from her peer group. Well, about the same time, she'd also been faced with some chemical poisoning from industrial poisoning. Others had also had it, but they'd recovered and she did not. She continued to have this issue. And finally, as the pain didn't let up, and she should have recovered from the chemicals, they took her to the doctor. She was first diagnosed by her general practitioner with fibromyalgia at 16. And he said to her, this is all in your head. You're just trying to get attention. Of course, this was deeply hurtful to her because she knew, I'm not getting pain just to satisfy some other need. And so they went to see a neurologist. He told her the exact same thing. And over the next many years, they saw every doctor as a family. Her parents took her. Every doctor they could find to try and find a solution to this pain that she constantly had. Well, at the same time, as I mentioned before, she was still struggling with sleeping, had sleep apnea as a diagnosis, and was just miserable. So she muddled along, did the best she could, eventually graduated from high school, went into college, and ended up having to drop out of college several times for extended periods just because of the pain. And when we met for the first time and we did our first session of hypnosis and helped her to gain a little bit of perspective, within a week, her pain dropped from a 10 out of 10 down to a 5. Her nightmares stopped, but she still had interrupted sleep and some scary dreams. In the next series of meetings that we had, we were able to process a lot of emotions. And we kind of grouped these together. The first round was anger and resentment. She felt a tremendous loss of her hopes and dreams for her future. We worked on guilt and shame. She actually felt selfish about being such a burden on her husband and her family for her illness. That made her feel bad. She also processed guilt and sadness because she believed that in her pain, she was carrying the burdens of other loved ones who were sick. And then she had fear and pain that this situation would never change. It would never improve for her, which of course, for many people, that simply amplifies the pain. So these are the beliefs that she had developed. As a result of this, she developed the belief that she did not deserve a happy life, and that the pain she was experiencing was a reflection of her worth, that she was actually being punished by this pain, that she'd been singled out for suffering, and that she deserved it. Well, as you can imagine, that's not a very healthy way to recover. Well, eventually we were able to connect the dots for her between the stomach pain that she had to avoid facing the rejection in middle school at around age 15, where the onset of her ever-present pain began. And when she saw that and how that might be connected to the pain that she was experiencing, now it was very difficult for her. Her conscious mind did not want to accept that those things were related, because she had rationalized that she was experiencing pain because she had a weak body, and that weakness came from the poisoning that she'd received many, many, many years before. And the big question was, if that rationalization is not true, what does it say about me? Am I just weak? Am I a bad person? Am I just making this up? Is it really all in my head? And of course, we had a long conversation discussing the process of hypersensitization of the neural pathway in the brain. It's not really you're choosing to be ill. You're not making this up. It's a real pain. It's really experiencing. You're really experiencing that in your body. What it is it's a learned neural pathway in your brain that has been associated with difficult experiences, and your brain becomes so sensitized that it just fires off these pain signals, eventually almost randomly, but at least at very modest stimulation. Well, she began to accept that that might be contributing to the pain that she was having. She began to have kind of a turning point. And just before our last session, she said, I had a really significant breakthrough. Once I embraced the possibility that this pain could be a learned response in my brain, I had an awareness that I didn't know I could have. For the first time, I began to accept deeply that I'm not meant to be in pain, and that I can really let go of this root cause, going back to the pain I experienced as a 15-year-old in school, and let go of that belief that I'm not enough, I will never be enough, and that I deserve to be in pain, which kept building with each unhappy experience that she had later on. Well, she was able to let that go, and was absolutely shocked to find that the new skills that we trained on for retraining her brain actually could reduce pain. When she'd have a flare-up and she'd apply these skills, she was shocked to find out that she could reduce the pain, giving further evidence that not all of this pain was based physically in her body, that there might be something wrong. So starting out, she came having pain that she considered to be 10 out of 10 and constant, just ongoing debilitating pain. And quickly it went down, and by the time we were at our last session, it was periodic. It was not constant. It was down to 4 out of 10, and she had learned to be able to control any flare-ups with the skills that we trained, and it continued to go down, and believed that it would go down completely and be gone eventually. In addition to that, her sleeping became much, much better. She no longer had nightmares, no scary dreams, and only occasionally had interrupted sleep. She was able to sleep so soundly, she felt sometimes like she was catching up on years and years of sleep. So her sleep apnea had been mostly reversed, just as a byproduct of the other work that we were doing. Here's what she said about sleep. Having that burden lifted is life-changing. It affects everything. For that darkness to be gone is so huge. She ended by saying, I now have a new belief. And that new belief is that change is always possible, something that I never believed would be true for me. She was so grateful and happy to be looking forward to life and opportunities and possibilities that she had pretty much given up on 10, 12, 13 years prior. Thanks for listening. Hope this is helpful in your journey of health and happiness. Please connect, like my page. Love to chat with you anytime you'd like to.